Hello, everyone. I am Tim Miller. Thank you so much for joining today. Um, in in today's session, I'm going to be talking about entering the world of academics, much like all my other previous sessions, but just a brief intro to me. I am a physical therapist who transitioned from the clinic to a faculty position. And then in that gained experience as being a full-time faculty member, learning a lot along the way within that transition, and then just kind of fell in love with education and educational technology and teaching and learning, and ended up, I was one of those of, oh, I'll never, after getting my PT degree, I'm never going back to school, but ended up in an EDD, or Doctor of Education program in educational technology at the University of Florida, and just really learning the fundamentals of being an educator and teaching and learning, and the psychology and sciences behind all of that, which was just a wonderful experience and helped me just to kind of grow expertise in teaching and learning and academics, and becoming a better teacher myself. And now I get a chance to work doing curricular and faculty development in a multitude of areas: post-professional DPT, post-professional OTD, entry-level PT, with my current position as Director of Strategic Distance Education at Rehab Essentials. So again, today, just kind of talking about the framework of building a course. So, if you've recently entered the world of academia, you've likely been given courses to teach, because that's typically the reason why you are hired. So chances are you might be a little bit nervous, freaking out as reality sets in of, oh man, I'm actually in charge of this. Now what? So you'll be responsible for building a course, probably either from scratch or taking one over that was taught by someone else. Now it's your job to kind of make it your own. Create the lectures, create grading activities, quizzes, assignments, exams. And I know all of this can be overwhelming, especially if this is your first teaching job. So I just want to kind of go over the basics of the what. Like, what is it you need to think through in terms of that. So, like, where do you start? So even though and I've said this in other sessions, but even though you probably never read them as a student like me, the course objectives matter and are like the basic building blocks for your course and curriculum. So you may be given objectives for your course, or you may not, and in that case you're going to have to write them in terms of, okay, what is the purpose, what is the description of this course, and then what are the objectives for us to get there. And then, beyond that, you need to think through planning course content to meet those objectives. So those are lectures or presentations. Are there readings that you want the learners to do? That traditional initial exposure to the material, of that content. So again, that's typically the first place you start in thinking of that, and kind of that outline of, okay, well, what is the material that needs to be covered within this time frame of this course, whether it's a semester or 2 semesters, whatever that may, trimester, whatever that may look like at your institution. And then beyond that, that initial exposure is only part of it. You have to have great graded activities. And I like to tell people to, think of the graded activities as the application of the material, or, student feedback opportunities. So, learning sciences dictate that, or have shown that, feedback, is key, right? All graded activities should be some, feedback type activities. So, again, courses are much more than just the lectures you create, but all of the learning experiences that encompass it, including these graded activities. So assignments or graded activities, keep the learners on track, throughout the semester, help them assess their understanding, through the feedback provided, in those. So even if it's a quiz, they're getting feedback on, what they understood. They're getting feedback on comprehension. If it's some type of application assignment, they're getting feedback on, where they either hit the mark or may fall short just a little bit. Um, Graded activities, again, thinking of them, should all work together to reinforce teaching and learning, which includes the number of graded activities, the expectations that you have for each of these activities, and the grade weight. So, how much is it worth? How much is it going to be worth towards their final grade, which are all things that you need to think through. In terms of, speaking of the weight, there, a variety of no stakes, low stakes, high stakes, need to be included. If you think about it, and you may have had this experience, it's not the best, or maybe not the most helpful way for, or of a learning environment if you have like, one exam that's worth 100% of the grade, or two exams are only worth 50%. There's a lot, more to think about in terms of, okay, how do we, as a faculty member, how do you structure those feedback opportunities, and what does that look like? Um, and the last point I'll make in terms of what to think about with the graded activities, again, assignments, quizzes, exams, is to consider the student seat time. So it's easy when you're first planning your course to have an outline of topics with all your lectures, and then you start creating assignments and thinking, oh, well, I need to have assignment for this, this, this. It's really easy to think of, all right, well, I need to make sure I'm assessing their understanding of every little tiny thing. And all of a sudden you look, and you may have 20 plus assignments in a 12-week semester, which which is probably not going to work out well for anyone. So just like with your lectures for graded activities, you want to be very thoughtful about what you assign, and the learners will quickly figure out whether it's meaningfully helping them, or if it's just busy work that they just kind of brush over, or that type of thing. So, and that kind of goes through again the weight, your expectations, the cadence, all of these things. So again, the first exposure to the material via lecture and readings, and then the application of that material via assignments, tests. They should all work together and support one another to meet the course objectives, and all together create a complete course. So all of these things that I just discussed in terms of creating a course, because at first, for me, you're just so focused on, okay, I got to create these lectures, and I need to record them, and I need to do this. And it's like, oh, well, what about the other pieces? There's so much of the course. Courses are more than just the lectures, obviously, or, and that type of thing. So they all require different planning and consideration for how to create and implement them using best practices of teaching and learning. Each of them have very specific best practices that most PT faculty, especially new ones, including myself at first, were not well versed in. And I would encourage you not to fall, in the trap of just doing it, a certain way, because that's how you were taught, or that's exactly how it was, this is exactly how you inherited it, or that type of thing. Um, there's endless literature on science of teaching and learning, learning psychology, on best practices to draw from, that you can draw from, that can help, rather than just, kind of repeating, tradition. And, this is where my expertise lies, and where I'm most passionate about helping, faculty in. So, help teaching you the how of all of these items that we just went over. So, I go in much more detail, through my faculty mentoring program at Clinical Connections. And within that 6-month program, you get that one-on-one mentoring, which allows me to help you more specifically, prepare your course, whether it's starting from scratch with no objectives, or if you're just inheriting a course that has objectives and you need to build out the rest. Um, helping with creation of those first exposure activities, whether it's lectures or those, or presentations, creating the student feedback opportunities of graded activities to reinforce the course content, all with the foundation of best teaching and learning practices. And probably most importantly, for any faculty member, having that type of support and expertise to lean on will save you a tremendous amount of time. Time, especially, from my perspective, is the most important currency as a faculty member. And in my experience, there simply, is not enough of it, especially when it comes to building and, executing a course. So, I always tell faculty members that I work with, you know, if you have a course or whatever that may be that, you need help with, having a coach or having a mentor, if it can just help save you time from that trial and error, and starting from a much better place than trying to just sort of figuring it all out, or keeping your head above water, can just be a much nicer experience for you, as a faculty member, especially saving time. So, in addition to that, I can, again, tailor I tailor all of my coaching to help you with what you need the most help with. So, during that one-on-one session, it could be whatever it is, driven by you in terms of what you need the most help with. If it's, hey, I have these assignment ideas and, can we help building rubrics or instructional design of the course, or just, writing exam questions or rubrics or objectives or any, any of those things that encompass, um, building a course. So, if this is something that you want some support and guidance in, send me a direct message or, put teach in the comments below and we'll reach out to the details of the program and happy to answer any initial questions or any questions you have overall. So I hope the overview of what to think about, was helpful for you to, today. And then if you have any aha moments or anything you want to share in the comments or anything that stood out or something new you learned, please share that. And I want to thank you for watching, whether you are on Instagram or the Facebook group or YouTube. And again, if you have any questions about what I talked about today, message me or leave any comments. And again, hopeful that we get a chance to work together and I can help teach you the how of all of these that we talked through. So thank you so much, and I'll catch up with you next time.